Okay, so hi everybody. My name is Alexandra Kritikos. I think most of you know me. Thank you all for being here today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a social worker and I'm the Community Outreach and Development Specialist with the Brightside family. I'm so happy you'll be joining us for what I'm sure is going to be a wonderful and very informative presentation on such an important topic, retirement planning, with guest speaker Linda Mills. Thanks to the Brightside family, our parent organization, and a generous grant from Women United in Philanthropy, we're able to bring these workshops to the community for completely free. The Brightside family launched this program in hopes of educating women and the men who care about them about the financial realities of growing older. So it's no secret that women face different financial realities than men, earning on average 21% less in their lifetimes. In retirement, they also face different challenges. So in a survey conducted by AARP, unfortunately, older women have expressed worry and lack of sufficient knowledge about retirement planning and financial security strategies. So really our goal with this workshop series is to just offer women, and again, the men who care about them, more of the information and expert advice so that they can have secure futures. So far, we've been able to hold 8 workshops since the program began in June, hosting various professionals, including bankers, attorneys, financial planners, and other experts in different fields. So this workshop series touches on many interesting topics, so just keep your eye out for future events, and you can watch all of our past events, most of our past events, we haven't recorded them all, on our YouTube channel. So as you know, today we'll be tackling retirement planning, again with Linda Mills. Linda has had a successful career in accounting, and she's also pursued her personal and professional interests with the transition later in her career in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Aside from Linda donating her time here today, we are also lucky enough to have her as a volunteer on a regular basis through our Senior Checks program. Go Linda. This program is a free daily money management program that's available to seniors in Bergen County. And through the program, they get matched with a trusted volunteer who helps them with things like mail sorting, getting bills in order, and other simple money management tasks. We have another volunteer in the audience. Oh, 2 more actually. So it's nice to have you guys here today. We'll talk more about that program later, but without further ado, Linda Mills.
So good evening, everyone. Good evening. It's, well, I think it's some more people coming in. No? All right. Well, it's a pleasure for me to be here this evening. Actually, I just want to put out the disclaimer that I'm going to be sharing a lot of information with you this evening. And it's possible that you are probably going to ask me some very sharp questions that I may not know the answer to right away. So if you challenge me that way, I'll get back to you at a later date through Alexandra and EJ. So, but I definitely will guarantee you that I will get you the answers that you're looking for this evening. So when I do presentations like this, I like to find out a little bit about my audience, because I spent time putting this presentation together, but to me this presentation means nothing if I'm not going to share with you what you're looking to gain in terms of information. So I like to do like a pulse check of my audience and see what really brought you here. So, and I also like audience participation, because I have no desire to stand up here for 45 minutes to an hour and do all the talking. So you will be encouraged to participate, whether you like it or not. So I would like a couple of volunteers for you to tell me pretty much, maybe give us a brief introduction of yourselves and what really brought you here tonight in terms of when you think about building your retirement portfolio. So any volunteers?
I'll go.
All right.
So hi everyone, my name is Steve, and I am a resident of Teaneck, and I am about to turn 50 in the next 6 months, and I've got a little scared. I'm like, oh my God, no.
Right, exactly.
Oh my God. But I'm starting to think about my retirement, because I don't want that when I get, I mean, more, how must I say, youthful, because we're not getting older, we're getting youthful,
That's
that
right.
I'm thinking about, like, oh my gosh, do I have enough? Because I don't want to be working when I'm 65, 70, like having to, I want to do it because I want to, not because I have to.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you know, Linda invited me here, and I said, what a better way to come and learn from someone who is already ahead of me
Yeah.
and know the journey.
You
So
just have
that's
to
why I'm
press
here.
that. Yeah, yeah, I figured that out before.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and the reason why I look so good tonight is because of Petula. She's my hairdresser, my makeup artist. So I like to thank you. Well, thank Petula for that. I've come a long way since she's been doing my hair and makeup. So any other volunteers? Now, you can't be shy with me here. So that's not going to work. But maybe as I'm talking, you all will warm up, I'm sure. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, because I have a lot of information to share with you where I can guarantee you between me talking and you all participating, we will be here for an hour and some change. So with that, I want to make sure I cover everything. And I do want to talk about savings a little bit because the theme of my conversation is pretty much going back to basics, so to speak. Because when we talk about retirement portfolio, I would say like in the last 20 to 30 years, there's so much emphasis on investments and investment accounts. And that's great because we all want our money to grow. But from my personal experience, and a lot of what I'm going to share with you is based on my personal experience that has gotten me to where I am now, which I am semi-retired. So basically, what has helped me get to that point is that I have, I think, a good mix between basic savings, believe it or not, and investments. So I would like to encourage you to look at this slide so it reminds you of what you probably already know about basic savings accounts, but sometimes we kind of forget because we're always looking for that big jump in terms of investment accounts. But I'm going to try to get you all back to appreciating basic savings. So look at that slide while I'll tell you about my personal relationship with savings. So I was one of those nerdy kids that I grew up in Harlem in New York City where I loved going to school. And in my elementary school, we had a great financial literacy program with the Bowery Savings Bank. Whoever heard of the Bowery Savings Bank? All right. Yeah. We're pretty much telling, yeah, we're showing our age here, right? So with audience participation, I'm going to ask you a trivia question because there's been so many mergers with banks. Can anybody tell me which current bank is managing the accounts that used to be managed by the Bowery Savings Bank? Does anybody know?
It's probably JP Morgan Chase, but who knows? I mean, they gobbled up so many banks.
Right. But unfortunately, that's not the right answer. The right answer is Capital One. Yep. And the reason why I know that is because, believe it or not, I have the same savings account that I had from the time that I started when I was 6 years old to now. So that's why I know it's, from Capital One. And I have no problem revealing my age. I'm 60 years old now. So, do the math. That's a 54-year-old bank account. But it was great because I loved going to school on Tuesdays where my parents would give me $1 to take to school. And I couldn't wait to go into my classroom, give my teacher my $1 each week. And you know how they used to have the passbook savings accounts, like your passport, right? So not only was I glad to give away my $1 and put it into my bank account, I loved looking at my passbook book and see how my money, I'm not going to say the word grow because that's not the right word. It was just accumulating. Because when you're putting your money in a savings account, is not growing. So it's really just accumulating. So for me to go to school, I think I was in the program up until like third grade. For my money to grow from $1 to $2 to $5 to $10, that was exciting to me because I never withdrew that money. And that discipline really worked for me all throughout my adult life as well. When I got a little bit more sophisticated, and in addition to a savings, I put money in my investments accounts. So all I know is deposit, 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 deposit. Nothing about withdrawals. So that served me well when, unfortunately, I lost my job a couple of years ago, which the average person these days, at least once in their lifetime, probably does lose their job. But I was well prepared. So I said, I just took that as, well, this is my time to do other things that I want to do. And I was, in fact, financially secure. So with that story, I just want to talk a little bit more in detail about why I do love and appreciate savings accounts so much. So as I explain here, I talk about dollar for dollar deposits and withdrawals. What I'm referring to is, let's say, for example, if you put $100 in a savings account, it's never going to decrease in that amount. It may accumulate. Again, I'm not going to say grow with savings, where if you get interest, maybe you'll get $100.01, right? But if you decide to withdraw that money, it's still going to be $100. It's not going to ever decrease to $99, for example. So that's what I like about, having deposits and withdrawals from savings accounts. Now, I don't know about you all, but I want to emphasize on this word free, because my philosophy is that anything that's free is for me, right? So especially when you're talking about anything that is not taxable income, right? So at least when you take money out of your savings accounts, unlike your investment accounts, that's a tax-free withdrawal, with the exception of maybe Roth IRAs, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. But, just in general, any money that you have in your savings account is easily accessible. And then your deposits are insured by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, which is the FDIC. And then if you do want to experience some type of growth with savings, then you will put it in a money market account or maybe CDs. But that's to the extent that you will experience any type of growth. So, okay, so all this talk about savings, now let's talk about, at least in my personal opinion, how much money are we talking about is a good amount to have in savings accounts. So I'm sure you have read different types of guidelines in terms of how much money you should have in general, which is whether it's savings or investments, right? So the more typical guidelines is that you should have savings, and it could apply to investment accounts as well, but you should always have some type of nest egg or reserve that's equivalent to 3 to 6 months of your expenses. You definitely should have that at minimum, in my opinion, that type of reserve, and preferably, I would say, in your savings accounts. Because, for example, how many of you all, well, I know some of you all are residents here, but even in your previous life before you came here, how many of you all are currently homeowners or were homeowners at one point, right? So you understand where I'm coming from, where I want to see that homeowner that can tell me that they go through a year or 2 years without having some type of unexpected expense, right? So, and then, but usually based on the type of expense or repair that you're incurring, a lot of these contractors and vendors, they don't want to hear nothing about credit cards. They want that cash money. So, in that type of situation, it's best for you to have money easily accessible, whether you're, in a position to give them cash, or you may have to write out a check or whatever. So that's where savings come into play, because if you have money in an investment account, you may have to go through a whole lot of red tape before you get that, money to your access to pay the contractors. And they don't want to hear nothing about that. They just want their money right away. So that's another reason why I like to have some type of reserve in savings. So another guideline that I want to challenge you with, it may be a little far-fetched, but it is doable, especially some of the ladies here that are not in the 60-plus age bracket. You all have some room to, apply to this guideline here. And that is having a balance in your savings account that is equivalent to your age, double the amount of your age, times 1,000. So as I just told you, I'm 60 years old, so that's why I use this example here. So 60 times 2 times 1,000 is $120,000. I think that's a good amount to have in a savings account, because especially once you do become retired, that could last you for a couple of years in terms of your bills. Maybe you want to take a annual trip somewhere. It just defers the time before you start really tapping into your investment accounts. And the reason why I really think that's a good way to, start tapping into your portfolio is because the investment account withdrawals, with the exception of Roth IRAs, are taxable. Right? So why would you want to jump into the fire and take out money in investment accounts and it's going to be taxable? So really appreciate, and hopefully again this made you or encourages you to fall back in love with basic savings, despite the fact that you're only going to get 0.5% of interest in your account. But look at that also in a positive aspect. If it may not earn a lot of interest, but then that's less income that you have to report on your tax return, right? Yes.
So are you suggesting that in addition to 3 to 6 months of your expenses, that you also have this 120,000 or twice your age plus times 1,000?
So what I'm suggesting is, at minimum, you should have the 3 to 6 months of expenses. That's just, I'm just trying to give you a couple of, options to look at in terms of what should be your minimum guideline, or actually a goal that you should have in terms of the amount of savings that you should have in your account. But I appreciate your question. Thank you for, that clarification. So that's my personal position with savings. Before I go any further, I'm just curious as to whether or not you agree with me, or you think I am totally have lost my mind to say that you should sock your money into savings accounts, not also, encourage you to put some money in your investments accounts as well. So does anybody have anything to share about their own personal experiences with putting money in savings? Yes, ma'am.
I think whatever you mentioned about savings, it's like, it all resonated with me. It sounds absolutely fine. My only concern was the saving accounts with banks, because this was my recent experience.
Right.
That I was following something similar to this, and no fault of mine, because the whole technology is going in terms of, instead of that one-on-one clientele service, it's going online. And to communicate with somebody was so difficult that they locked my accounts, and I was not had no access. I was physically going, saying I am the person, the client. My bank was calling the headquarters, telling them she is our client. She opened her account for last 6 years, 8 years with us. But, so the saving accounts and everything is fine, but are there any other options of saving somewhere else with the same stuff, rather than like just taking that chance of putting everything in one place and then being locked out?
Right. So does anybody want to answer that question? I mean, I have some thoughts on that, but yeah, Petula?
I wouldn't put it in
yes.
one account.
Right.
I wouldn't have one account, and I wouldn't have put it in one bank.
Yes, the thing is still the system of just having you giving your money to somebody else, and somebody else is controlling that for you, that when you need an access. And it's not just in this country, it's like it's happening all around with the banking system, and they're going in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine when the whole bank branch manager is calling the headquarters and they're not even listening to him.
But that's just one bank you have that problem with, right?
No, so this is like happened to me in Chase. Somebody else has had it with Bank of America. So this is just a new thing that is arising right now because of the transition in the bank. Yeah, for security.
Right, security. Yeah.
But what is happening
Mm-hmm.
is individual one-on-one is kind of going down versus everything is going into like you're kind of dealing with robots in a way. Like
Yeah.
so that is where it is heading. So I just wanted to find like if there's maybe
Yeah.
it doesn't need
How
to be
long
now.
did they lock down your account?
For 3 weeks, and it was like, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's just like it's not that they're locking my say for my own bank branch manager, other bank branch managers, everyone has seen that everything is in front of us, but still like because they had an error in their system, but they prefer believing the error in the system rather than
Mhm.
the human.
Or they have to, you know,
There's no other way.
basically
Right.
construct what went
Exactly.
on, figure out
Yeah,
why
but then
there's
that's
an error.
their thing. But for me, for 3 weeks not having access to my own money,
Wow.
Yeah.
and then I told them, okay, if you're shutting my accounts, so
Mhm.
is the money coming back to the person or the address? They're like, no, the money will stay with them.
Mhm.
So I was like, why won't the money go back to where it belongs? Like, if that's a concern.
Yeah.
So that
So.
is where I was like,
Yeah.
then
So.
why would you keep the money then? Give it to
Right.
the government, give it to anybody else, but
Right,
shouldn't be
right.
with you.
Yeah.
So that
So.
was my
Yeah.
that was my
Yeah,
only
that
reason.
does sound a little bit like it was a one-off kind of scenario. I mean,
Right.
No, it's been happening with a couple of people. Like that's the reason.
But I think,
Patula.
Kutula,
Yeah. No. No. I'm just saying because
that
you was
her
talking to her. Yeah.
suggestion that's an interesting, problem, and
Mhm.
maybe we do need to, think about that and have more than one bank account.
Yeah, but my whole point is, even I have more than one bank account. The whole thing is that institutions are going in that direction. So my whole thing is,
What direction?
in terms of they have control over our identity and access of money, versus
Yeah.
we having the control over access of our money.
But I don't think
But-
we ever did with the bank. I mean, I
Right,
think
right.
with banking, that's the whole idea, is that you're
Yeah.
handing your money to an institution
Right.
that you trust, and
Mhm.
you trust that they're going to be good stewards of that
Yeah.
money.
And that's why
Right.
I'm asking, is there any more options than just
Not really. And we need to continue on. But basically, as I said in my previous slide here, just appreciate that your money is insured by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. So because the only way that you're going to avoid what you're talking about is if you put your money in your mattress, which that's not what I'm going to recommend here. So unfortunately, I think the only way you can avoid that is that you have to manage your security of those accounts. So make sure you are aware of your username, for example, your passwords, because usually that's when accounts get locked out, when you're trying to go into your accounts and you forget your password, for example, your username. So you have to take control of that to make sure you're not locked out.
Because actually, I know it's going to go off topic, but it was not even that, because they have this new technology of you can scan your checks
Mm-hmm.
to your phone and not even having to deposit it.
Yeah.
So I did that.
Right.
And because the system did not scan it properly on their end, they logged
Right.
me out of my own account.
Yeah. Yeah.
No fault
So.
of mine.
So
Okay.
at the end, hopefully we'll have
Yeah,
a chance
so-
for a Q&A, and
Right.
then we can have a group discussion. But just
Yeah.
for the sake of everybody's time, let's
Right.
go ahead and continue.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. So when I planned out this discussion and presentation, I was thinking that the next topic that I would talk about after I talked about savings would be investments or investment accounts. But luckily, in talking with a friend of mine who made a similar type of investment that I've made like about 5 years ago, there's something else I want to talk to you about in terms of making sure you make this particular investment through an insurance policy, because if I'm going to talk to you about building up a retirement portfolio, I have to also talk to you about certain situations that probably at least once in your lifetime you're going to encounter that can totally wipe out your portfolio. So before I reveal what I'm talking about, again, I'm talking about a particular insurance policy that you can invest in. Definitely, especially when you get older. Do you have any idea as to what insurance policy that I'm referring to? Bingo, that's right. Long-term care insurance. Now, when I have talked to financial advisors, they were impressed when they did not have to sell me on it because I already have it. And the reason why I invested in long-term care insurance is because, unfortunately, my mother passed of Alzheimer's disease about 8 years ago. And thanks due to her due diligence, her and my father, they also had a decent amount of savings put aside that I could use to put her in a very nice facility in Ridgewood. I don't know if anybody have heard of the Care One of the Cupola, yeah. Right? So she was there for the last 2.5 years of her life. The only drawback is that it hurt me so that her hard-earned money had to be used for health care that she should deserve to get. So what I did in addition to that is that I also put some of my money towards her monthly fee for that place, so to make sure that her money wasn't totally dwindled, away. But based on that lesson, I said, well, that's not going to happen to me, God forbid, if I am stricken with a chronic illness. So at age 55, I invested in long-term care insurance, which is very expensive, but it's one of the best investments that you can make because it covers care, not even at assisted living facilities and nursing homes, but even if you want care at home, And what's great about these policies is that it fluctuates with inflation. So in general, if you get care at assisted living facility or a nursing home or even at home, that cost can be anywhere from $280 to $300 a day, right? So that's a lot of money that you should not have to care about if you need that type of care, So as I say here on this slide, the best age to get this type of insurance is anywhere from age 55 to 65 because the premiums even at that age is not cheap. I don't have no problem telling you that I pay $4,500 a year for yeah, but it's because I started at age 55, and luckily I have a great insurance plan with Mass Mutual where it hasn't even increased since I got it. So I firmly recommend Mass Mutual for this type of investment. Mm-hmm. Wow. But what is the average age are you seeing that they're investing in the policy, would you say?
One of them started probably, I don't know technically.
Okay.
She's 94.
Wow.
So she's not paying premium now because she's using it. But I have
right.
One who, because she's not in a assisted living, she's in an independent living with AIDS.
Mm-hmm.
So her long-term care insurance policy says if you're not in a facility,
mm-hmm.
then they still can charge you the premium. So she's still paying an annual premium. And she was a teacher, so she probably started when she was in her mid-50s.
Right.
$12,000 a year in premium.
Wow.
But
wow.
She gets $309 a day.
Right. Exactly. So the way these policies work is that you have to go through an elimination period. And the elimination period is anywhere from 30 to 180 days. And what I mean by that is that when you have a chronic illness, and I'm going to use Alzheimer's disease since I'm unfortunately familiar with that disease, you have to pay out of pocket that amount of days, whether it's 30 days, 60 days, 180 days, depending on how your policy is set up, before your policy kicks in to start paying your expenses. But you know, 30, 60 days or whatever out of pocket as opposed to years of coverage, it's still, worth it. And then also, what I like about the policy is that when you get life insurance, for example, whether it's whole life or term life, those premiums are not tax deductible. But long-term care insurance premiums can possibly be tax deductible. Of course, with the tax laws today, they make everything hard to be deductible, of course, but it is possible. And the way it's possible, if God forbid you have a lot of out-of-pocket medical expenses that is equivalent to exceeding 7.5% of your adjusted gross income in taxes or whatever, then it's possible that also you can deduct at least partially, your premium. So even if you're paying, let's say, as high as $12,000 a year, maybe if you're lucky, you can get a couple of grand from that premium to be deductible from your taxes. So that was another great incentive for me, to get the long-term care insurance. So I will tell you, I guarantee you, no matter what else I talk to you about tonight, this is the best advice I'm giving you tonight. So by any chance, I want to know if anybody here has invested in long-term care insurance. Congratulations, good for you. So do you agree with all what I've said in terms of it being a benefit? Have you, what got you to invest, if you don't mind me asking?
When I worked for a corporation, one of our clients was MetLife, and they offered an opportunity to get a long-term policy.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, when I left there, I took the policy with me. I ended up getting working with a financial plan advisor who also recommended Mass Mutual to come in the same policy because one doesn't run either. So,
right.
So I mean, but I've been with them for God, it has to be 15 years or something like that. So I hope I never have to use it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess it's the double. I hope I never have to use it, but I hate money not to be used for something.
That's right. That's right. And I'm so glad you brought that up because that is the risk. That is a policy that, if you are in good health, you may not have to. Good health.
These hybrid policies now.
Yeah.
Policies that are some kind of hybrid where it's like long-term care insurance and life insurance together. Some sort of, I haven't really studied that market because I don't have any clients who have that right now.
Right.
But there are some, because I had a couple who were clients, and he died. He was expected to die, but we thought she was going to live for quite a while. She was only not even 84.
Right.
And shortly after he died, she died. And
Yeah.
they both had long-term care insurance policies. She never even started.
Wow. Wow.
And that's the people that those insurance companies love.
Oh yeah. Yes. Exactly. Yes. Sir.
I wanted to say that besides being nerdy, you must be very healthy because personally, I had a situation when I was 51 where I had a cardiac arrest, and that wasn't expected.
Right.
And I'm out of it. I couldn't get one of those policies if my life depended on it, which it probably does.
Yeah.
But so my advice, whenever this discussion comes up, is to do it as soon as you can.
Right. Exactly.
Whether you're in your 40s.
Right. Yes. Yes. And I applaud you for that.
When the bank
yes.
straightens out your money.
That's right. Right. Yes. Yes. And
don't wait.
Yes. And
it's one of those things that can make a remarkable difference in the rest of your life.
Yes. Yes.
When something pops up that you never expected, and
right.
You're out.
That's right. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to offer anybody that wants to talk to me afterwards, because I promise I'm going to be the last person to leave tonight. So, if you want to pick my brain beyond this presentation, you can. But I would love to connect you with my broker because that's how much I value this investment that I made. Yes, ma'am.
The long-term care insurance
we can buy any age?
Uh, well, yeah, the earlier the better, but as I'm suggesting here,
Premiums get very
you know,
high. The
yes,
older that
yes,
you
the
are,
older you are, the higher the premiums is going to be. So that's why we're emphasizing get it now. As soon as you leave this building, call a broker, or I can suggest to you as to who to call. But I strongly recommend Mass Mutual, as this lady also, has said as well, you know. So, all right. So let's talk about the basics in terms of investments. Okay, so I'm sure that most of you, I'm just assuming that most of you, as a result of, working, either you're currently working or you've retired, you may have some of these, or one of these investment accounts. So one is the 401k retirement accounts that you usually get from your employer, or you have an IRA account where for many years there was just the traditional IRA account. But in the last, I would say, 10 to 15 years, then people started talking about the Roth account. So for those of you that are a little younger, I would say, around Petula's age and this young lady here, the Roth accounts is maybe something that you may want to consider because it's a good mix in your investments. And the reason why is that a traditional account, your withdrawals are subject to tax once you start taking the money out. But with the Roth, it's the complete opposite. It's your deposits that are taxable, but your withdrawals are tax-free.
Can I ask a question on that? 'Cause
Sure.
I'm a little confused because I was told
Mm-hmm.
if you deposit now without taxing, later down the line, if you're in a different tax bracket, it would be better for you if the money is taxed that way than to get it taxed now and think about not paying the taxes later.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Fatula, because that is a typical question that you would talk to your accountant about. Because I do have a slide in terms of what you should discuss with your financial advisor versus your accountant. So that clearly is an accountant question, and that's a good point that will determine what IRA account would work,
Yes.
For you.
That's what I know.
Yeah. But a lot of people, what they're doing now is they're, mixing the two, So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to put all your money in a Roth versus a traditional. So, because early in your life, depending on your, taxable income status or whatever, it makes sense for you to maybe get the Roth and have the deposits taxed or whatever. So this way, when you want that money to be withdrawn, that's tax-free money. Yeah. So it's pros and cons to both.
But you're
Yeah.
right. That's the logic behind it. That when you retire, you're not going to be making as much money, so you're in a
Yeah.
lower tax bracket, so your taxes are lower.
Right. 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 So to remind you of, oh, actually, I'm going ahead of myself here. So now this slide is a prime example of advice that I got from my financial advisor in terms of the mix of my investment accounts. So what I strongly encourage you to do if you're not aware of your mix of your investment accounts is to talk to your financial advisor and confirm that you have a similar mix as to what I am referring to on this slide, which is 60% stocks and 40% of bonds. And the reason why that's a good mix, and I just read this in an article in AARP, is that is the best type of mix to beat inflation. If you have this type of mix, your money is probably going to grow like about annually 20%, for example, where the current inflation rate is about exactly 17.86%. So this mix of investments actually beats inflation. So that's another thing that I want to emphasize to you all, that if you have investment accounts and you're not sure of your mix of how your money's invested, talk to your financial advisor to see exactly how much money is in stocks versus bonds. So just to give you a reminder of the withdrawal rules when you have money in an IRA or a 401k account. So most of us, and I'm going to pick on Petula a lot tonight since I know she's one of the younger ones here and this young lady here, but you know, and I think a few others that look kind of young. So I'll just use myself as an example. I am past to, so I won't offend anybody here. I know I'm over 59 and a half. So I am free to make withdrawals without any penalties from my 401k or IRA accounts. So, but actually what happens is that, and the rules keep on changing in terms of withdrawals, right? Because now it's my understanding that it's age 70, but it's talk about maybe deferring it to age 72, that you have no choice but to make a withdrawal from those accounts. And the withdrawals have to be at minimum 4% of your portfolio. So if it's, for example, if you have $1 million investment portfolio, you have to, once you reach age 70, have to take $40,000 out of that account. And actually that may sound like a lot, but what's good about investments, unlike what I did say about savings earlier, is that if you're taking 4% of money from your investment account, there's still a possibility of getting that back if your money is reinvested, well. So if you take out $40,000 of a $1 million portfolio, that brings it down to $960,000. But let's say you're taking that withdrawal at the beginning of the year. You have a whole year to recoup that money. So you're not really losing anything. By the end of the year, you may be back up to $1 million again, depending on the market and depending on how your money is reinvested. So my rule of thumb is that if you want to take out more than 4%, keep it around the 4 to 6% range, because that's the range where your money could possibly be recouped or you can get it back. Anything outside of that range, then you're taking the risk of never seeing that money again in terms of your balance, increasing to where you started. All right. All right, so I'm talking a little bit about fixed income here, where pensions, in my opinion, is the thing of the past. Unless you work for the government or maybe you're in the teaching profession, those are the only professions that I know of where people are still getting pension checks. Everybody else is getting the 401ks now. And I don't know if this is of interest to you, but the reason why companies, have done away with pensions is that it was getting too expensive to have them on their financials in terms of the assets and liabilities that comes with pension accounts. So it was much cheaper for them to manage 401k accounts instead, right? And then everybody pretty much that retires at some point gets Social Security, benefits. And actually, this is a time where I would be interested in hearing some thoughts about this, because at least I'm in the age bracket that this is a controversial conversation in terms of what is the right time or the right age to get benefits. So all I can tell you is that the earliest age that you can get your benefits is age 62. And then for me, since I was born after 1960, my full retirement age is 67. So me personally, I am trying to defer as long as I possibly can to get the benefits, because in looking at my account that you can set up on the Social Security website, which is www.ssa.gov, you can determine how much money you would get if you start withdrawing at age 62 versus age 66 versus age 67 versus age 70, and make that determination as to whether it's worth it for you to wait that long. What I found in conversations is that people that are not so secure about their mortality, they're saying, look, excuse my French, to hell with it, I'm going to take that money at age 62. you know, and then other people that are relatively healthy, they are very confident that they're going to live a ripe old age, hopefully like me. I'm trying to wait it out, you know. So I'm just curious as to whether or not anybody is willing to share what their experiences have been with Social Security, and what is your determining factor in terms of when you're going to take the benefits or not. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it wasn't so much a health thing, but financially I was really drained.
Yeah.
At 62, I had no choice.
Right.
I had to take 62.
Right.
I'm 72 now. I would have got a lot more money at 66 or 70. I had no choice. So
Right.
I'm getting less than I am. I'm getting it longer. I would have gotten a lot more if I'd been in the wait.
They should do your taxes with the assumption that your benefits could possibly be taxable. You know, they have to figure it out, whereas like, let's say if they use TurboTax, for example, they have to go through the calculation based on your other income items to determine if, you know, your Social Security benefits are taxable. It could be maybe partially taxable, but it could be possibly taxable income. So, you know, when you are getting yourself prepared to talk to your accountant, you know, make sure that you have your Social Security information to provide to them so they can determine whether or not your benefits are taxable or not. So, this is another good piece of advice that I want to share with you, because the common mistake that people make is asking the wrong person for the wrong advice. So, I consider myself more so as an accountant, more so than a financial advisor. So even though I can give you basic advice in terms of you know, financial advisory type advice, I probably would encourage you to go to a financial advisor, because my background as an accountant, at least when I did accounting work, I didn't even do taxes regularly. I was more so on the auditing, financial statement preparation side, because sometimes I don't like telling people that I have a CPA license, because automatically they think I prepare taxes. I can prepare your taxes for, you know, like they say, show me the money, I'll prepare your taxes. But I don't present myself as a tax expert or professional. So, you know, you really have to be careful in terms of who you go to for advice. So I want to talk to you a little bit about other investments that you can consider to maybe increase the amount of income that you have to your access once you retire. So with vacation homes, I'm sure some of you, since we're here in New Jersey, although we're lucking out with this winter this year, right? It's no snow, the temperatures is not that cold or whatever, but I'm sure there's been other winters that you want to get out of here and possibly, you know, consider buying a vacation home in Florida. And the reason why I refer to Florida is because with Florida, at least that's a state where you're not subjected to state income taxes, right? So my best advice with vacation homes is that even though it can generate rental income, it's best to set you up with a vacation home where you're also investing in a property manager that can handle your, you know, your rental arrangements, and you're not running back and forth if, you know, you have maintenance costs to incur or whatever, because once you start doing that, then you start wondering, well, was this investment really worth it? If I see myself going on the plane every couple of weeks because there's something wrong with the house, or you're taking 15-hour drives to Florida or whatever. So I can't emphasize enough that it's best if you go this route with getting a vacation home, please look into getting a property manager that can manage your rental arrangements, collect your income for you, and take care of all the maintenance costs. Now, annuities is a prime example as to why I am quick to say I'm not a financial advisor, because there may be somebody here in this room that can explain annuities better than I can. So, by any you know, chance, does anybody here, assuming that you understand what an annuity is, do you have annuities? Does anybody have an annuity to their knowledge? Oh. Right, right, right. Would you be so kind to take a crack at explaining what an annuity is?
No, I can't do it justice. It's not my,
Yeah, right.
no.
Okay, all right. So,
Nothing wrong.
so I'm glad I'm not the only one. Based on what I've just learned from my financial advisor, um, at first I thought it was only through insurance policies that you can set up an annuity, but I'm learning that even through your investment accounts, you could set up a portion of your investment account and set it up as an annuity. And what that does is that it guarantees you a certain amount of monthly cash flow, for a certain period of time. And definitely if it's an investment account, that money is going to grow. So you're getting two for the price of one. You're getting, a monthly guaranteed residual, so to speak, and the money is growing as you're getting it. So that's the story I'm sticking with annuities. Definitely, if you want to learn more about annuities, there's a website called Investopedia where you can get additional information about annuities. Now, reverse mortgages is another hot topic that has been kind of hot for the last 10 to 15 years. Pros and cons with it. It's great tax-free monthly income if you're over the age of 62 and the house that you currently reside in, you expect to live there at least for another 10 years or so. But here's the drawback to me. You got to understand that a reverse mortgage is just like a regular mortgage. It's a loan. So you have to incur the same type of obligations that you do with a regular mortgage. And this is one thing that I don't like, because I go back and forth as to whether or not when I'm age 62, if I'm going to consider it. But here's the thing that really puts me at pause with it. I know that I am responsible, and as long as my mind is of sound mind, I'm going to keep up with my property taxes, for example. But God forbid, especially since it's in my family, I may get inflicted with Alzheimer's disease one day and forget my property taxes. It only takes one time for you to slip up and not pay your property taxes, that under a reverse mortgage arrangement, your house is in foreclosure. So that is, I can't emphasize, how, and I like the reaction that I got, because it's a great reaction to something to think about. It sounds great. Yeah, you got your house paid off and now you're going to get the money back. And, it's almost like getting a Social Security monthly benefit. But you slip up one time, not 2 times, 5 times, one time. And I know of couples that have been in this situation. They slipped up one time, their house went into foreclosure.
Doesn't sound like you're going to go for this thing.
Yeah, I tell people about it just to increase your, knowledge about it. But in terms of really strongly, encouraging people to do it, I just say just be very careful before you look into it. By any chance, has anybody thought of going into a reverse mortgage? I'm sure this is not the first time you've heard about a reverse mortgage, or if you know of anybody that has considered it. No? Okay. They're probably, in the long run, better off not to. Now, I want to talk about another situation that after you spend so much time building up all this great money, where, a situation that could, pretty much wipe out your income if you really get carried away with purchases using credit card. So as you see here, the best advice I can say about credit card debt is to just avoid it, right? And also, please do not go crazy with the amount of credit cards that you have. It really makes no sense. You have MasterCard, you have Visa card. Why do you need more than one of those two? In addition to a card with maybe a department store. I refer to Macy's because that's my go-to store. So I'm going to hold on to my Macy's card. Forget it, and especially with all the discounts that I get with it. But me personally, I only have, I practice what I preach. I only have 3 credit cards, and that is probably too much. But there's really no need to have anything more than that. And whatever credit cards that you have, please get in the habit of paying off your balances in full. Now having said that, I would also say avoid credit cards like American Express where you have no choice but to pay off the balances in full also, because there's a difference when you decide that you're going to pay the balances off in full as opposed to a credit card that's telling you you have to pay the balances in full. So there's a difference. I also would tell you to stay away, like some people, they get so much into debt, they get kind of desperate, and I hate to say it, and they find ways as to how they can maybe do away with paying off the entire balance or whatever, and they get into more trouble. So I'm going to give you an example of a case study that was actually a real case study that I came across, and I'll share with you in a few minutes in terms of what the outcome was. So let's say, for argument's sake, John had a $7,000 balance on his credit card. He tried to make a deal with the credit card company to pay off $2,000 of the $7,000, thinking that if he just paid that, he was done, right? He didn't have to worry about the remaining $5,000 balance. Any thoughts as to what happened to John with that $5,000 balance?
His FICO score went down to 10.
Probably. Any other thoughts?
And they sold it to a collection agency.
He could never borrow money.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to buy a house and have a mortgage, you couldn't.
Right, right. So all of those things probably did happen to him, but what happened according to this case study is that the credit card company says, yeah, we're good here. We're going to take your $2,000. We're not going to bother you again. But what we're going to do is report that $5,000 to the IRS. So basically, the lesson learned here is that there's no such thing as forgiveness of credit card debt. You either pay it, or you can call a credit card company to make a monthly payment plan. But there's no such thing as forgiveness of credit card debt. And that's what happened to John. So they, between the two of them, they, may have forgave it, but they reported it to the IRS, and then, the IRS, John got the 1099-C form, which, once you get those forms, that's money that you have to report on your tax return. So he still had to report that $5,000 and pay tax on that money.
But he still paid tax. Exactly. He didn't
Yeah, but still, to me, I don't want to deal with the IRS any more than I have to. So I rather would have personally just paid it off. And like, the other, folks said, it affects his FICO score. So, in a way, he did not win, although he thought he was getting ahead.
Do you know if, like, the frequency that happens, that the credit card company will send a 1099-C?
No, that actually was revealing to me. I've never heard of that. Yeah, I've never heard of that, but I was definitely intrigued when I came across, based on my research for this presentation, and I came across that case study.
And it's
So,
not just credit cards.
Mhm.
Business owners who are owed money
right.
will often do the same thing. Well, not often, but it
Mhm.
happens where the company, the vendor, will send the 1099 to those people,
Mm-hmm.
and it can scare the hell out of folks when they get that.
Right, exactly. So actually, I'm near the end of my presentation this evening, where we will have a little bit of a Q&A session, depending on how much time Alexandra and EJ, tells us that we have. But I just want to end my presentation with giving you, and you may want to jot these down, because these are names of free websites that you can do more research on in terms of retirement planning. I got the names of these websites based on an article that appeared in Forbes magazine called the 25 Best Retirement Websites. And I purposely refer to websites that I never even heard of. So the only one that I was familiar with is Nerd Wallet. But the rest of them, I took a quick review of it, and they do have some good information on these websites. So I strongly encourage you, since it is free information, that you go on these websites. And yes, I think I see people taking pictures of this slide. So either you jot them down or take a picture of this slide so you can go back to, these websites and do your own research. Because what I share with you tonight is just the tip of the iceberg, but hopefully I shared enough information with you to appreciate, your journey with retirement planning. And at this time, yeah, I'll let you all take pictures of the slide. Make sure you have the information. Okay. All right. So I thank you this evening to give me this opportunity to talk with you all tonight. Hopefully I gave you a wealth of information that you can consider. And at this time, we're going to open up the floor until Alexandra and EJ gives me the cue that we're going to shut it down for the night. If there's any questions that you may have or comments, anything that maybe I didn't cover and you think, this group would like to hear when you think about retirement planning. I'm open to anything you would like to share at this time. Yes.
I just wanted to add that with the credit cards, some of the credit cards offer cash back.
Yes.
And I think I encourage all of my clients to have cash back credit cards.
Mm-hmm.